lose you like I lost your mother or something like that. It just leaves it in the subtext, you know?
Okay.
And I think that's great. You know, it's just like it doesn't feel the need to shovel down like all like, and a lot of the character relationships.
It doesn't shovel
like
in a bunch of exposition at you and then like
exactly. You know, like it just has exposition on the stuff that kind of it has exposition on the stuff that matters to the forward movement of the plot, and like
it's the exposition of stuff that you'd actually give a shit about in the context of everything going on around you.
The rest of it is just there for you to like, you know, and I kind of don't like games that have like this really kind of, you know, like, oh well, everything's there for you to find, but it doesn't quote unquote shove it down your throat. I think honestly I'm really skeptical of the entire whole thing of the emergent storytelling thing.
It works when you know how to do it, but the problem is most people think that emergent storytelling is kind of just a thing where you just kind of do it and it works. Like open world, like you don't even have to try. Just put it there and people will buy it. And that's clearly not the case because, like, you know, if you know how games are now is any evidence of that not being the case.
Well, I also say that I'm also very skeptical of emergent storytelling. I'm also skeptical of that. I feel like a lot of things tend to lie in games having this weird like tech fetish, and then emergent storytelling is something of a more of like this idea of games are unique because they can just kind of allow you to do anything in the world or something. But like,
that's the thing though. I think it works
about those things, you know.
And, you know, I'll admit that, yes, I do come from a kind of film and literature background, but here's the damn thing. You know why games makers are being so kind of, like, on to emergent storytelling? It's because of their own insecurities about not being able to tell stories the way other media do.
Yeah, if it means that if you don't have to focus on doing good writing and just put it there, then everyone else will do the writing for you.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
Yeah. If anything, like, the Dark Souls series is, like, a perfect example of that, because, like, those clearly have story, but, like, it's all about, like, the theories that everyone else comes up with that, you know, that they piece together just from playing this game. Dark Souls is a really good example of the system working out, but I mean, like, not every game is Dark Souls.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I mean, definitely not everything.
But I think that's what that Dark Souls does is that it presents an interesting setting, a setting that suggests things. So everything. So it's this idea that again is more akin to certain kinds of literature, more poetry than is to prose, right? Of being suggestive and alluding to things rather than just actually explaining them in detail. And games are very good at that. And I guess that's why I sort of see maybe I'd see the positive in what we call emergent storytelling. But at the same time, I don't know. I do also have some skepticism toward it. I will say that. I have skepticism towards the way people tend to push it as this sort of really sort of powerful, unique trait of games that will push games forward. And the way people always seem to put emergent over the idea that people seem to sort of see linearity as sort of progressive and pushing effects.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's I think that's why people look down on Japanese games, is because Japanese games more broadly rely on, you know, what a more typical and straightforward sense of storytelling. And I think that's like, I can't write about this conclusively, but like, you know, I do generally think that Japanese games are getting pushed out of the discussion slowly and slowly.
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely.
No,
for sure.
It's clear. It's very, very clear that they are. It's not. I don't think it's any doubt towards that.
Yeah,
you just see it.
I watched a panel with the developers of DayZ, and they were talking about storytelling in games, and of course everyone was a white dude on the panel, and like, okay, you know, whatever, let's like not even talk about that.
Well, I mean, I could, but I mean, like, you know, go on anyways.
But
we all know about that.
But the thing about that is like,
you're talking about.
They did not mention a Japanese game once. You know, like, they did not mention a Japanese game maker, or like anything that had influenced them. And I'm like, son, you probably spent the first 10 years of your life playing Japanese video games. You know,
yeah,
like,
straight up.
You know. And that's the thing, it's just like, you know, I feel like the move towards emergent, like the, you know, like this kind of popular narrative moving towards emergent storytelling rather than straightforward plotting is, intentionally or not, I'll even give it that much credit. I'll say that it might not even necessarily be intentional, but like,
I would say that a lot of problems that games have aren't exactly intentional.
Yeah, but
it's a result of like big businesses and capitalism, but at the same time being applied to an art form that is very clearly still growing.
Yeah. And so basically, it's just, I feel like it's as we've moved towards that, we've moved away from the way that Japanese games tend to tell stories, which is that you're more like someone who's kind of like a part of this avatar's life for a short period of time.
Yeah, you're watching.
Yeah, and like Japanese video games, like they're very much about this idea of like, oh my god, I can't even hold on, I have a spell for this.
I have a spell for this discussion.
No, but like the thing about it is that Japanese games, and I've been thinking a lot, like reading about Metal Gear Solid 2 really made me thinking about the relationship between players and player characters. And the thing that's really interesting about Kojima's games as a whole is that they're always talking about the relationship between the player and the game itself. Like Kojima's games always are always acknowledging the idea that there's a player existing outside of the game, and that's like, that's straight up in terms of like, oh, you've got to press this button. There's that, but it's also just like for example, a lot of Metal Gear Solid 2 is about a lot of Metal Gear Solid 2 1 and 2 are about separating the player and the player avatar, and Metal Gear Solid 3 is about how the player is complicit in these actions, and it kind of expresses that in part by having the player have greater control over the player avatar, over the player character than in any other, example.
Oh yeah, Metal Gear Solid 3 is like straight up like going that way for sure.
To be honest though, I've always been somewhat unimpressed by games and their discussion of meta. To be honest, I don't find it that impressive to be like, oh, what? You're playing a video game. Oh God, like this is actually like, you know what I mean? Like I know I'm playing a video. I understand that there's a world outside of here, and I never found this simple acknowledgement of that, just that existence in itself to be that much of an impressive thing. And this is why I find games like the Stanley Parable. I still think Stanley Parable is interesting, but I mean, like, people seem to be so fixated on how it constantly reveals to us of what it is.
Well, I mean, it worked for Retro City Rampage.
Oh, this is a video game. Look at you. I guess you're just going through rooms, and that's all you're doing. You're just a player. It's like, but I found those things with Time really boring.
Can I just say how much I fucking
things about that game?
Can I just say how much I hate Retro City Rampage? Because, like, that game is, like, it does so many cool things, but it is the exact, like, it is, like, down to a T exactly what you just described, where it's like, oh, this is a video game, so we're gonna let you know as often as possible this is a video game until you're fucking tired of it.